Welcome back to Run It Back, Oceania's #1 award-winning Valorant podcast, and apparently now post-show for the US election, where you can get all of your US election news that's not pertaining to the US election, because, yeah, we just don't need that on our day today. How are you going today, Kev?
Yeah, man, just keeping tabs on the going-ons in the world right now, especially in the United States. And if you're unsure about what I'm talking about, I'm actually talking about First Strike, so Valorant's on my mind right now. And that's really all I'm thinking about, and really all this show's about, except for when we talk about League of Legends and politics and other things and things that Ducky's interested
let's be
in.
real. The real US election was on the weekend when Cloud9 won. That's when the real election was. That's when the
yes, people elected Cloud9 to win. Yes.
Yeah, and apparently Envy's vice president now. So shit luck to, I guess, Sentinels and TSM and the likes, because they got beaten to the post. Anyways, that's enough about US stuff. We're here to talk about OCE Valorant.
We're here to talk about us now. We're done talking about US. We're talking about us now.
Yeah.
And between us, we got some good stuff happening, don't we, Duck?
Look, it's a bit of a purple patch for OCE Valorant, if I say so myself. Like, there's plenty happening with LPL. We've got the Men Expert Invitational on this weekend, and we've got First Strike going on. There is some cracking Valorant happening this week, and we've got two of the best guys in the biz, plus you and some random like me to chat through it all. Actually, and I can say this properly, your co-caster is on today. Your actual co-caster is on the podcast today.
True.
Yeah. So I guess without further ado, we'll introduce you guys to Conky and Mac. How are you going today, guys?
Yo. What's up?
Hey. Good. Yep. Great.
Now, Conky has put on a bit of an achievement. He is the first returning guest of Run It Back. So how's life changed in the 2 months since we've had you on?
I've watched very minimal Valorant, but I've also played very minimal Valorant. However, I have been trying to keep up with it all. I guess the whole thing is I've logged on, bought some skins, played maybe one terrible game of Diamond. But look, at the end of the day, I've actually been trying to keep tabs as much as possible. It's been really exciting with all the new OPL teams getting picked up and that kind of stuff. So it's been cool to keep tabs on.
So is that one game cost you like $140 because you have to buy a skin set every time you log on?
Well, as Mac has already given me the business today on Twitter, I'm getting abused for buying the Reaver thing, which I need to buy shortly. So maybe I'll stream it tonight. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And how are you going over there, Mac? Also known as Geordie, because that's how I called you when I first met you, to much disgust when we were on the streets of Sydney.
Yeah. I was a few sojas deep when you said that, though. So I wasn't being... I'm sorry if I was aggressive. I didn't mean to come across aggressive. I was trying. What is it? You got to be assertive, not aggressive, to have these arguments, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Yeah. So apologies, but I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Are you not allowed to call him Matt? Call him Geordie? What's going on? I've never really crossed that bridge.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just a first name.
What are people allowed to call you? Is Geordie off the table?
It was just weird when people started calling me my first name in esports when I'd been called Mac for better part of 4 years or something. And then
I remember having that conversation
Geordie
with you. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, my mum calls me Geordie. My Jess calls me Geordie when she's angry at me, and that's about it.
So that's what I was doing that night. I was telling you off. You're obviously doing something bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, have I done something wrong? And it was like, oh no, he's just trying to be nice. But you got me in the mood, so it just was what it was. It was very unfortunate. But look, we're still we're better mates, and we had the discussion, and it's a talking point now. So here we are.
It's a wonderful experience. It was. I am Sydney. Wonderful time, and I guess for me, I very much loved that event. It was my first CS:GO event. I very much enjoyed it. But we're here to talk about the CS:GO clone, because that's what everyone calls this game, apparently. It's a CS:GO clone, Valorant. Before we get too deep into it, though, we've introduced Conky on this show before. I'm actually keen to dig into your background a little bit, Mac, as a caster, because you've got a very, very exciting story through casting. You've had a lot of big opportunities. You've grinded very hard, and I feel like that's a story that's worth telling. So give us a little background on who you are.
All right. Well, so I guess my casting story started when I got kicked from my CGM team because I was always lagging from 6 p.m. to whatever time it was, 6 p.m. to like 11 p.m. because we went on a bad internet provider when NBN first came out.
Was that
down
Ground
in-
Zero
down
Academy,
in
by the
Wollongong.
way?
No, it wasn't. It was
Okay.
Deuce Inferos or whatever it was called
Yeah.
back in the day.
Mm.
Anyway, so I was on that initial roster, and then whenever we were screaming, I was on 150 ping, and I was like, oh, well, this sucks. So I got kicked, and then I was like, well, I can't play. So what am I going to do? Oh, whatever. I'll just cast the boys playing. And I think that was like when I was real good friends with, like, this is back when Tham was on MC, and like it was all the OG MC players back in CGM days. And I was just casting their games, pretty much ripping shit into them. And then I just had so much fun doing it that I just did it for a while. Never really stopped, just sort of did it intermittently. And then, I don't know, kept on doing it. Got a bit of a leg up when I did the next big caster because I had a lot of free time. Obviously, my background is I work in video production. I'm a video camera op by trade. So that's where I wouldn't even say I haven't even made that much money doing it this year because this year's been screwed. Like no one wants to pay for marketing or anything. So there's just been no jobs on. Fortunately, esports saved this year, but we'll get to that. So through being a freelance worker, self-employed, I had a lot of free time. So obviously I had a lot of free time to do some daytime NA, ESEA games like MDL. And to enter that competition, which went well, I came second to Stronglegs, who was a very good caster, but he made some bad decisions. He would like give betting advice to all his subs on Twitch and have like whole spreadsheets. So obviously that got him a lot of subs, but it didn't necessarily get him in the good books with anyone. And he got in a world of trouble for that. And I don't think he's casted CS since, but now he's trying to make a bit of a name for himself in Valorant. And he was a good guy. He meant well, but it was just, that was at the start of that whole period where people were getting in trouble for betting with insider information. Because as a caster, obviously you shouldn't bet on the thing you cast because you might have a
insider
route
trading
information, etc. We can talk about betting all day, but this is
I was gonna say, like,
CS.
we just had the ESIC investigation in Oz, like,
yeah. So, and apparently there's more names on the horizon, so bloody wait for that. That's going to be a bit silly. Anyway, is what it is. That'll happen. People make mistakes, and yeah, I think it was a mistake that people didn't vote for me, and I didn't get to go to the MDL LAN finals. But look, Stronglegs had a big thing. Anyway, so still a bit of a chip on my shoulder for that one. I was like really pumped. I was like, oh, I could win this. I could go over, and I think that was in Texas, and it would have been
it was, because that was the same one Rob was in as well, right?
Yeah. I think Rob came third. Like,
yeah, he did.
It was very, very close. But then it was literally like the problem with it is like a popularity contest, and that's what it is. You know, the guy that wins, who's the most popular, have the most eyes, bringing it to the show. So
at least you've got one on Rob now. There you go.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I still cast CS. I think I've still got that going for me at least. Nah, he had other things on. He was a busy boy.
At Snowball Esports, we love Rainbow Six. I'm just saying that, putting that out there. We're gonna please. We do love Rainbow Six. We also love CS:GO. So
yeah, but he got like a proper job working at Click. So he just sort of had to, like, working at Click's more than a full-time job. Like, it's one of those bloody 12-hour a day things where you get called up after hours. So I don't envy him for taking that one. Anyway, where'd I go from there? I kept casting, just pumping Australian Counter-Strike, did some European MDL stuff, because that was around when you could easily get the IPs for like all the MDL games. Now there's the whole process. And then I got a job working at a creative agency in Sydney for video production, and I ended up moving to Sydney and strategically moved to Lidcombe because I needed to move somewhere that still had NBN. And then I knew that Liddy was close to the Auburn ESL studios. And as soon as I moved up, I started messaging Elfish guy, Jordan, and saying, hey, if you ever need anyone to cast, I've been smashing at it for ages, and I'll live 5 minutes down the road now, conveniently. So you could just let me know. And then there was like one random day, I can't remember if it was, I think it was after IM Sydney. That would have been 2018. Yeah, 2018. And I think I'd already done GFIN at that point. So after IM Sydney, for some reason, I think a lot of the ESL casters were too scared to take the job at Gfinity because they were rival TOs and they were worried about not getting more work with ESL. So that opened up an opportunity for me to go and do casting at Gfinity. And I still remember the first fucking broadcast there where like I just had the biggest mind blank in the world. I was like a deer in headlights when Jim asked me a question about something that I just didn't feel comfortable talking about. And I was just like, oh yeah. And I was really bad. I was so bad at filling for the first year and a half of doing like studio broadcasts. Like if I go back and watch it now, I'll just
Jim carried me so hard on that community, man. I tell ya.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you go back and watch it, it's just a whole different thing. But also, like Jim can talk for 15 minutes, half an hour without having a breath. The man just has so much, and he's just been doing it for so many years now that he's just very, very good at doing all that. Props to him for doing all the PAL or the POL, whatever it was. The
Perfect World, yeah.
RMR stuff. Yeah, Perfect World. And then from there, so yeah, Jim, bloody tremendous mentor. Having him teach me many, many things about casting over there was like I think it was like a 2 month or like 2.5 month, like 10 weeks sort of thing. For the first GFIN, then there was a bit of a break, and there was the second one. Before the second one, I think I started to do some like ANZ broadcasts that Jordan got me in for like ESI NZ champs. And they were okay. But even like if I get feedback from Jordan now about back then when I was casting, he's like, oh my God, you sucked. He'd like ask me a question, like, and I'd say, oh yeah, it was pretty good. And then just throw it back to him. And it was just like, it's just like the worst. Because there's two things you can do that suck as a caster. And one is you talk too much or you don't talk enough. That has to be like a happy medium, and then the happy bounce back and forth a lot of the time for it to be interesting, or at least entertainable by your co-caster. So that's something that you need to be worried about. But yeah, from there, GFIN number 2 happened, did some more ESL work, and then eventually started casting with Rob in January or February that year.
That was AUNZ League, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, AUNZ, and then everything else. I think it was like we got some big Cato East quals, which was sick. That was when we started to do some more overnight and international, like random work. When ESL would get some B stream stuff. Some Pro League, some Asian Pro League, which was, I think that was my first delve into Asian CS. So started 2019. And then I went overseas to Malaysia because there was too many broadcasts on at once in the Australian office. So me and Pilly went over for the first week, did a whole week of Pro League for Asia and Oceania. Then Blair got flown in when I got flown home for 2 weeks. And then for the last week, I think Jordan got flown across. I can't remember exactly how it worked. But anyway, when they eventually came back, it was like a 2-day turnaround from Pro League straight into IEM Sydney. And it was like a whole kerfuffle with that when Mitch, you actually got the email I was supposed to get. Someone somehow mixed us up.
What's
and
this?
Like, it was a couple of days before going live, like we got the call up because they didn't have a B stream talent organized. It had been overlooked, and they were like, oh crap, we got to get like B stream talent. So then Rob and I got the call up because obviously we both lived in very, very close, and were able to just fill the void quickly. So that was awesome. So even though it was last minute, we then got to cast a whole week of bloody top tier Counter-Strike, and that was crazy. It was probably it was definitely the biggest tournament I've done. Obviously there's some more recent stuff which would debate that, but it's not LAN, it's online. So
no doubt that's the biggest tournament you've done, mate. That's where you met me.
Yeah, of course.
Any chance to meet me? That's obviously just bam, top of the list. So I bet Kev's is like MEO 2018.
Is that when we met?
That is when we met.
I'm mind blanking, dude. I'm just like trying to remember, but it's been too many times now.
It's been 87 years.
The funniest thing about that email, though, is I think that's the email that put me on the guy's talent radar because he continued to follow me from that day. And that's how I think I got ESL work in the future.
Yeah, because
it all happens in a way.
I messaged Rob and I was like, oh, what's the call time? He's like, didn't you get the email? And I'm like, no, what email? And then that's when we figured it out.
Yeah, we were.
And I think they'd sent the email when you were asleep. And
yes, correct.
everyone,
Yeah.
some people freaked out because they were like, "Oh no, Conky's gonna fucking wake up and he's gonna book the first ticket to Sydney and bloody come over," and they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, whoa, what have we done?"
Yeah.
So
we sorted it. It was fine.
yeah, it got sorted, but like I didn't get much sleep that night because I was freaking out. I was like, "Oh god, is this like what's supposed to be happening?" Even like I think the guy who I was in touch with, who was the talent manager, he wasn't awake. So I couldn't get in touch with him. I think he emailed me at like 6 a.m. the next morning, which I woke up to and I was like, oh, geez, like it was just that relief. So I was like, okay, I haven't been, forgotten about and like put in the bin here. It was just a simple mistake. And then after that, great week of CS. And then since then, there was one more there's two more ANZ Champs lands. First one was actually in the studio, which was really, really fun because it was, the land was in the studio, the casters were in the studio. We got to have like interviews and banter with the talent. And
that was the chili at the desk, right? Whenever I'm at the chili,
yeah, that was very good land. And I've missed them so much since then. There was one more after that, but what they did was separate the land, which was at Supernova or Comic Con or one of the
Brisbane up north, yeah.
No. It was the one that was in Sydney.
Okay, yeah.
And there was one that was in Sydney, and everyone caught the flu because there was some crazy flu going on. The con flu, yeah. But anyway, so the land was there, but the broadcast, because they were testing remote broadcasting, was from ESL Studios. So that was good because it was like the last land, and I didn't work the second day. I went and like saw everyone and caught up with people, which was okay. But even because it was just sort of that con vibe, it wasn't like everyone in the studio. After the teams would play, they'd sort of just disappear, and you wouldn't get to mingle with like the players or like.
Rest in peace, Max Mike. He's talking.
Oh. Boom! Use the picture. Use the picture.
No.
He muted himself.
I got excited. I pressed my mute button, which I completely forget about. My bad. I'm very apologetic about that one. No, so that happened, but the last land was Zowie, right?
Yeah.
The last domestic land was Zowie, which came after that by a month or two. And it's been over a year since that.
The famed white girl wasted won the first Nats land. Incredible.
Yeah. It was that was fun. Anyway, and then this year's been pretty stacked, fortunately. So I've been able to pay rent and then some off most of the esports. There's been like nothing in terms of the video production. Well, not nothing, but not a lot. So yeah, tax this year is looking weird. But yeah, I guess that brings us to here. We did recently the 3 weeks of what was that EU and NNA B Stream Pro League, which was 6 days a week for 3 weeks straight. I'd be waking up at like 1 a.m, getting ready, get to the studio 3 a.m, call time, work till 9 or 10 a.m. Some days we'd get off at 7 if you were lucky and you got like a couple of like 2 mappers back to back. And those were accelerated a bit as well. So that was cool. And yeah, that was just a whole lot of really good Counter-Strike. Fortunately, we did TriCasting the whole time as well. So not only was it really good experience for us to work on chemistry in TriCasting for Pilly, me, and Jordan, but it was just great because like when you're that tired, if someone comes in, and it was always like I'd come in and feel great, and then Jordan would come in and feel terrible. He's like, I got like a 5% sleep last night because we both use the like sleep tracking app on our phones. And he's like, man, I got nothing. And I was like, okay, well, look, I'm feeling good, so I'll carry today. And then the next day he'd be like, I'm feeling good, and I'm like, fuck, I had like a terrible sleep last night. And it was just back to back, like flip and flop like that. And Pilly's always coming. He's just napping on the couch every day, and he's like got exams. And as soon as we were finishing, he'd be jumping into a lecture. And he'd do it from the studios. I'm just like, man, you're just take the day off. Just say, hey, look, we'll just catch up. Yeah. He's the best student I've probably ever met, other than maybe Jess. Jess is bloody hectic, but she's done now. So congrats.
You got to keep the misses on the right side.
That's it. And then in there sprinkled bit of Valorant. The order Valorant Open, the Oceanic Valorant Open, whatever it was. That was
OVO.
That was great. OVO. Yep. That was a very good tournament, and it was a pleasure to cast. And that was also before we had all these, bits and bobs, the fancy X-ray that worked and stuff as well. So
you
remember that,
days of Valorant.
Yeah, the broadcasts that are coming up are going to be so much better, just in terms of being able to follow. Oh, crazy!
You don't get blinded like the players. You're not like the JKS widescreen now. Like, well, I mean, I guess you are like the JKS widescreen. Like, have you logged into Valorant this patch? Like, honestly, like it's just like constantly.
Yeah, but they increased the length of bloody breaches, flashes, and stuff. But yeah, since that, I've only played a little bit of Valorant because obviously I had that upside down schedule for a whole month. Didn't get to play like all of Act 2, played a little bit Act 3, and I'm just pumped to get back into it. But I was supposed to start going hard on the weekend to get ready for this weekend, but RuneScape has unfortunately caught my attention again because they've released this absolutely pog league, and there's just so much sick content coming in around it. So
I was going to say that's a wonderful segue to build into, what's been happening around the Oceanic Valorant scene, because there's been a lot happening. First of all, we can't talk about Oceanic Valorant without touching on what's happening in First Strike right now. We're only going to talk about very briefly. We'll dive into the Chiefs Man Expert Invitational stuff. But top 32 for Rise of Valor has been decided. So 24 teams made it through open qualifiers. Looking at names like, well, Akatsuki made it, but then they got signed by Diables, so they got pushed up. God, I'm terrible at thinking teams off the top of my head. You've got teams like Panther, Kanga. A lot of the top teams that obviously didn't make the direct invite got in. I don't think there was any major names that really missed out. And then obviously now it's going to be 32 down to 8. That's going to be exciting. But that's a discussion for a future week, because we have got an absolutely massive event happening this weekend featuring 8 teams who we may as well see in the First Strike finals, regional finals, because they are some of the top 8 teams in Oceanic Valorant, and they are competing in the $10,000 Chiefs Men Expert Invitational. You can see them on the screen right here now. In Group A, we have got the defending Ignition Series champions Exo Clan, Legacy Esports, which is Ferg's new roster, Ferg from Team Launch, Mindfreak and Rip and Tear round out that group. And then in Group B, you've got Order, formerly known as Team Launch, featuring 3 of the faces that won the Order Valorant Open back in July now, I guess. Notic, Avant, and Kanga. So you've got 8 really strong rosters, all duking it out for $10,000. And some Intel PCs as well for the winners, which will be, I mean, depending on whose setup you're looking at. Who was it in ROV? Oh, Kev chilling out the sponsors.
I'm waiting on mine. Not it.
Who was it? Was it in ROV or OVOs, or was it even photo? Someone posted the monitor.
What was
the like really the CRT monitor match?
Void. Yeah.
Void.
There you go. So what we're hoping Rip and Tear. Rip and Tear. But yeah, that was maybe he could do it with the PC. We'll see. But I'm really interested because all you 3 are going to be casting the tournament all weekend long, starting. I think it starts Friday, so November 6th. Let's break this down group by group. So Group 1, we've got EXO, Legacy, MF, and Rip and Tear. Now, to me, this feels like there is a clear top 2 and clear bottom 2, because I feel like EXO and Legacy are really strong, and MF and Rip and Tear might just be, they're still really good teams, but they might just be a cut under. But we'll go to you, Kev, first, because I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this group.
I mean, the clear cut, like you said, is EXO Legacy, and then it's MF and Rip and Tear afterwards, right? So really, I think this group is going to be EXO should be a lock-in unless they somehow blunder it. But I don't see EXO falling here. EXO might drop a game, but even then, I don't think that's really expected. I think it would be an upset if they drop the game here. They should be looking at a 3-0 pretty cleanly. Legacy, to be fair, they look good on paper, but we haven't really seen them yet. We don't know what they're capable of. We know that on paper they should be good. MF have actually looked pretty good recently, so there is a potential upset there where MF can beat Legacy, and then MF can squeeze to a number 2. It'd be EXO and MF coming through. Rip and Tear would probably struggle here. I think Rip and Tear have... I kind of got MF a little bit higher than Rip and Tear currently. I think Rip and Tear have always been a bit of a 50-50 team. They have generally good results, but then they can also bomb out in tournaments as well, which is a little bit unfortunate. I think MF, more recent from what we've seen, especially you look at LPL and stuff as well, MF have generally looked fairly strong. So I would say that EXO are clear favorites here. MF have strong dark horse potential. Legacy should be expected to make it out as well, but Legacy are not confirmed for me. They could probably even be upset by MF and possibly lose.
I think MF is really the roster that I've got all eyes on because they've just today announced what quite possibly is the best roster announcement video in Valorant history, because it uses my absolutely favorite Twitch clip of the what's her name again? I don't know, but it's the rant about the animals dying in the planet dying, and then it leads into the COD montage, except this time it's signed by Hunter's Fury. But yeah,
Veda V, I think. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah,
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, iconic.
She's the one that said about the just get a job, just get subs.
Yeah,
right?
She's
yeah. Bro, if you're so poor, just like, man, you shouldn't be watching the stream. Go get a job, dude.
She's a character.
Yeah.
So, great intro video. And good. By the way, just to insert myself a little bit. Great to see Signed and Swell pop up on their feet post Direwolves to make it onto another team.
Yeah,
and then they ended up beating Direwolves, the new squad. So in LPL, that was quite interesting.
Oh, really? No, that's something I didn't know. There you go. Cool.
Yeah, last night.
Yeah, hang on.
I can't remember. But
a few nights ago.
Yeah. But I think this MyFreak roster with Signed and Swell is the most interesting addition to me. Because I think that's a team with a boatload of potential, and I think something that I guess the MyFreak team I think were lacking were structure. I think is the best way to put it. And especially after losing Skits, because I feel like Skits going inactive, he was a massive backbone in terms of the team structure and IGLing, and I feel like the team with a guy like Signed and Swell, both of these guys coming in with a little bit of a different FPS experience. Obviously, Signed's been at the top.
Those guys don't IGL, just to be clear.
They're not IGLs, but it's a different kind of experience.
That's a Fortnite Overwatch roster, isn't it? Basically, like from previous games, right? Is that majority?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty
so
much.
Basically, like Overwatch, I guess there's some sort of team element when the Fortnite guys are just running around crazy, right? That's what I've noticed in a lot of these changes recently. Like, I was trying to talk to Panic about it because, like, EXO, aside from the very first competition where Launch won, which was Auto Valorant Open, right? Like, so many of the teams since then, like, it's been EXO clearly at the top, but then below that, it's just been up and down and crazy just because, like, everyone who's come from CS like was dominating at the start, but then the ones who like kept their CS talent, everyone else who's come from like other games or learning the game have like caught up now. I feel like the CS people won't dominate anymore.
Just a reminder, Conky. OVO results, top 6 had pants down in Direwolves.
Exactly, that's right.
So I don't. Let's not go too far and say they dominated. They won. No. But remember, like
foundations, right?
Yeah.
That's what
CS:GO versus Overwatch fights.
No. Because who's the dude on Sentinels that was the Overwatch player? That's
Sinatra.
Like, yeah, he's like, holy fuck! Like watching him come in, it's like, dude, all right, other people are gonna be able to boogie in this game. And that's what I loved. The
one person that I think a lot of people, and this is going on a tangent about Valorant, but I do want to touch it. The one people that I think a lot of people are sleeping on is Spider, Sire player, because I think he's been nuts for T1. I think he's going to be nuts for T1, and yeah, I'm just really excited to see this diversity of players now starting to flourish.
Well, that's it. And that's sort of the point I was getting at. You notice these like full fives that have come straight from CS to create a roster, and then like mix and match kind of stuff now, where now you're seeing like all people from different backgrounds connect together, which I think is really, really cool. And what the whole thing about Valorant was meant to be, it's not CS. That's the thing. And I think that obviously, people have come in with that little boost because it's the same ground, I guess. Whereas now other people are learning how Valorant is supposed to be played and whatever you want to call it. And I think a lot of people that were coming in from the CS fundamental are going to drop off, is basically what I was getting for.
Haven't heard from you, Mac, about this group. What's taken your interest looking at Group A in MEX Invitational?
I still feel like I've been out of the scene too long, and there's just been too many changes, and like I'm not even watching too much international stuff at the moment, just pretty much because there's been so much CS on, and I've just been focusing so much on CS for the last little amount of time, and because hasn't been like a prospect of doing too much Valorant, because a lot of the stuff is Melbourne locked in terms of the first strike. So
that's not the one about it. That's you're scared of the line now. I appreciate
there's no work. It's hard to want to focus on it, right? It's like, well, you could just be beating a dead horse and then just go nowhere with it. Did that with a couple of other games, and I don't want to do it again. So I'm going to be doing my research in the next couple of days. But in terms of like the teams, like almost every team is a fresh face. Like I want to see what order looks like, with the couple of roster swaps there as well, because they're obviously looking good before. Exo Clan, are they still going to be on top? Yes, maybe. Who knows? Like, did you guys see Iron's tweet yesterday with Sky just doing the aim prac with the bird?
That was awesome.
That was hilarious. But like at the same time, why the hell is that thing moving so fast?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are changing all the time in this game, and like even just that like operator change, when I came back and I tried to pick it up the other week, I was just like, holy shit, this thing like doesn't move anymore. Like I feel like it just got nerfed so hard, like so hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really excited. I think Group A is interesting for how I feel like, I guess top heavy is the best way to put it, but I think when we're now looking at towards Group B, the group with Order, Notic, AV, and Kanga, that is a really exciting group for who I think is going to get top 2, because I feel like you can kind of lock Order in. The Order roster with it's basically team launch with Tex. No, Tox, Tex, and
Autumn is so good, man. I'm so excited to see that guy playing. Yeah, damn, man. That one's going to be I think that's really like one of the coolest things, and what we were talking about. So I had quite a lengthy conversation with Panic about it the other day, because obviously he's moved into Legacy. He's made a very, very open statement that like people in CS at the moment aren't wanting to challenge Renegades, sort of thing. Like, so he was like, look, until I can find a roster like that's going to actually want to beat Renegades, they're like, nah, fuck it. So let's go back to, let's chill and see how Valorant goes, because there seems to be more opportunity. And the coolest thing about that is now the rosters that had started. So like Order, they've gone, all right, let's have a bit of a shake up and get on Autumn and Disco, who funnily enough are like veterans from CS that have been around for ages, but they're gods now. So that's the coolest thing to me, is getting an opportunity, and hanging with, I guess you call quote unquote the big boys for those like newer talents, which is so sick. And that's what Valorant was always meant to be about.
Yeah. And you look at the Order roster, and that is the old guard of CS mixed with, I guess, the new guard of Valorant, because you look at the credentials that Tox, Texer, and Dick Stacey have next to them. There's a major in that branch with Dick Stacey. And then you've got guys like Disco and Autumn, who were absolutely shining stars on Ground Zero, which was, I think, a really promising roster. And it's a shame that roster disbanded. And look, I'm just going to say this. Can someone please pick up Kane? Like, please, for the love of God, someone pick up Kane, because everyone else on that Ground Zero roster has been picked up except Kane. And someone needs to pick up Kane. I don't know who it is. I don't care who it is. Just someone do it. Could potentially be like a team like Notic who can pick up a Kane, and you're looking at the rest of Group B with Notic, Avant, and Kanga. I think this is a really exciting, because these are a lot of teams that people might not see a lot of. They're not often teams that are discussed when you're sharing Valorant, where the discussion has predominantly been EXO versus Team Launch for the entirety of the start of this season, or I guess the scene as a whole. So I'm really interested to hear. We'll start with you, Kev. Like, if you were to pick one of the 3 teams that could potentially make it out of that group and in the top half kind of a deal, who are you taking out of Notic, Avant, and Kanga to make it through to the deep end of the tournament?
Avant and Kanga. Notic are not going to get out of this group.
Okay.
It's not going to happen. Mark my words. That was meant to sound a lot less aggressive, but I was just trying to be confident about it. I just want to exude a little bit of confidence here. No, I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen these teams play in a while as well. This is going to be a new test for Order. I do expect the team to be very good. So Order's a lock for me. Should be pretty safe. Avant have been fairly good, but I think Avant always trail on like some of the rando results they've gotten. You look at RV, they dropped out randomly at one point in the tournament. We talked to Lakers about that, and he sort of mentioned like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, unlucky, I guess. Avant sometimes just do have a random loss in there that just completely screws them. So, who knows? I think Kanga's a great up and coming team. Kanga are kind of in the same boat as Mindfreak. I think Kanga have great upset potential in that particular group. And Kanga could definitely take down, for example, a team like Avant, who are well within striking distance of them, and then Kanga could actually make it out of that group instead. So it could be Order Kanga or Order Avant. I'm not super hot on Notek at the moment. Maybe there's an outside chance there, but yeah, I would suppose. I think both groups have at least one, if not two, clear-cut teams, and then perhaps one dark horse team, and then another team that is going to struggle a bit more.
So who's on Notek at the moment? Because I'm looking at them on VLR.gg and there's 7 people. So that's more than a team.
It's Pixel and Infrequent. Are they still main there? Pretty sure.
I think, yeah, I need to double check that. I'll look it up on Smash GG because I actually don't have the rosters on hand right now.
Yeah, right. I know but that Noisy has been playing a whole lot as well, so I don't know if some people have swapped in and out, or if they're just like a 7-man rotating roster. Go full Astralis, but like nice and early here in Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got a team like when you talk about Avant in this group, like they're the only one of those 3 teams that are in LPL Challenger, not they're like above LPL Evo. They've managed to run it to at least the consolidation final, so they have a chance of facing off against EXO for a rematch because they ran the top side of the bracket with EXO, only to be absolutely flogged in the winners final like a couple of days ago. Yeah. And then like you're looking at Evo where you've got Kanga and Notek. Kanga's at the top of their group in Group B, and Notek's kind of down the bottom of Group A. So that roster's been on a bit of a shaky water since the end of Rise of Valor.
So I'll say this much. Based on what we can confirm on the roster, Pixel, Diggy Dog, and Sicko, like they need some serious firepower on that team for me to I don't know, I think to really compete at this level. I think they lost their best player, which was Ninum. Most people, that's not controversial, and most people can agree with that. You look at across all of Notek's games, you look at where the successes have been. There's no doubt in my mind Ninum was right at the top of that one. So yeah, losing Ninum definitely hurt their squad. And unless they pick up some firepower to replace him, and round out the team, it just, based on the 3 people that I see there's information I'm not working with here. I don't know who their full 5-man roster is or more. If they want to go for more,
we got it.
We do.
It's Sicko, Noisier, who's Ellen Page, Pixel, Infrequent, and Saxley, and Diggy Dog's a sub.
Right, yeah, cool. Yeah. So no Infrequent then. Interesting.
No, Infrequent.
No, Infrequent was there.
Oh, sorry. I completely blanked on that.
Diggy's a sub.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. No, other way around. And also, I was going to say as well, Kev, so Ninum is the Jet player that has moved from that roster to Akatsuki, now Direwolves, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, so that roster it's still kind of in the works, so we don't really know exactly what will be coming in on Friday. But it could, if this is the roster that's actually coming in, there is a little bit of, I think there is a little bit of hope for them. Like they could snag a couple of upsets here and there. So I feel like Notek's been that kind of team that everyone kind of forgets about, and then they appear randomly in a top 16 or a top 8, and you go, oh yeah, they exist.
Well, they're still top 3 on VLR. I mean, obviously they haven't had any games that have been logged on there in a while, and I know that's going to have a big shake up. Obviously this whole ranking thing, and that's what I was thinking this morning when I was getting ready for work. It's like, shit, this competition is the first real one where there's there's a couple of teams that are really good that aren't going to be in, but it's 8 teams that are solid as anything, and it's like, shit, okay, this is going to really weed out who's good and who's not.
And I'm not as upset by any of the teams here. I think, like you said, the thing that's always going to happen with invitationals is you're going to get your team list, and no matter what, someone's going to go on Twitter and be like, "Well, where is X and Y team? Where's this
going to call someone out here, Kev?"
Someone's always going to do that. You can't, I don't know. It's hard. Like when you're gonna miss out on somebody. Also, rosters are fluctuating, so you're gonna miss out on a team where Direwolves weren't put together. That wasn't. Akatsuki was a team, sure, but I don't know. You can make some arguments for either or. I think the 8 teams we got are pretty solid, and I'm pretty happy to see them there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of solid teams now that have really formed that are around First Strike that maybe weren't in the discussion when the teams for the MEX Invitational were chosen. But like when you're still looking at a cross section of how the first kind of 6 months of Oceanic Valorant has looked, these are 8 of some of the strongest teams that we've seen in this region so far. And I guess it's the storylines of like whether ExoClan's going to keep asserting their dominance, whether Order's going to be able to rise up again and reclaim their crown, or like a new team is somehow going to step up to a plate. Maybe Ferg's got that Oceanic super team that I talked about in my sources piece last week going ham. You know, I think it's really, really exciting.
It's a good team as well.
Yeah.
I think it's either going to be really good or really shit. That's the best part about that.
There's no in between.
No.
Wait, so with First Strike coming up, is there so you know how all the OPL teams, they have a slot in it?
Yeah, in the open qualifier and the close qualifier.
Qualifier, right? So does like Gravitas and stuff have teams?
Yeah,
so Gravitas just picked up. Wait, who was it again?
This is a great segue because I actually
that's like Clutchy and shit, yeah?
Yeah, they got Noz, Spikes, Clutchy, Elsno, and Nerox.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's a pretty good roster.
Which it's like it's a decent roster.
Something.
You know,
So it's another one of those on paper rosters though, because like I don't know how the squad
correct.
don't work together at all.
No.
Again, super happy for my boy Noz, who was on my team earlier. Good to see him land on his feet as well. So that's a really strong team for Noz to land on. And I'm pretty sure he's the only. I don't know where Nerox and Spikes come from. Spike is
CS as well.
But yeah, so Noz is the only non-CS guy on there. And he's also the one guy on there outside of Clutchy who's been kind of in the Valorant scene. I think Elsno, Nerox, and Spikes they're coming in new to Valorant. They've not had the same amount of experience in time in Valorant. So that's why this team is like an on paper team to me, because it's like, well, based on the quality of CS players, you know, they could be good, but haven't seen them in Valorant yet, so I honestly have no idea.
Yeah. Before we get too deep into the roster shuffle thing, I just want to bring it back to MEX because I want to get you guys predictions for the event. Before we get there, I'm just going to explain that the way the MEX works is the MEX Invitational it's Friday is a BO1 group stage. The top 2 teams from each group go into a double elim bracket on the Saturday and Sunday. Actions taking place all across this weekend. You can see the screens up, the times up on the screen here. I'm not going to do time conversions because I'm in Perth, but all the times are in AEDT, so you can kind of take that in. You know, games start at 12 p.m. onwards, and then the grand final is on Sunday, 8th November at 4 p.m. Be sure to catch all the action. I'm expecting myself, and I hope it's an EXO Order grand final because I think that's an awesome storyline. But I'm really keen to hear what you guys have to think about, you know, what teams are going to be showing up at the top. And I guess I've talked to Conky first. I've talked to Kev first. I think it's now time to throw to Mac first. You know, who you've got at the top of this event.
All right, so Rip and Tear, I play a lot of Among Us with them, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good at Among Us. So I'm going to have to back my boys on Rip and Tear, solely off their ability to completely just throw all logic out the window and just send it. You know, that's it.
That is a wonderful face that your camera's frozen on, bud.
We're all just snickering here, mate. You're frozen, mate, and we are all having a laugh.
We can hear you, but your camera's just at the perfect pose.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Am I? Here we are. Hey, beautiful. All right, good.
Nice.
But yeah, Rip and Ted, the best Among Us team in Oceanic Valorant. You got that?
Oh, I didn't say that. I said they're gonna win.
Win what, Among Us?
Yeah. Is this is an Among Us tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's an Among Us / League of Legends tournament. You know, we've got all the bases covered. Maybe a bit of Black Ops Cold War if we can throw it in as well. I don't know. I
can tell you right now, no matter who wins, Chiefs wins. So there you go. Chiefs will win the tournament. Easy money right there. I still have EXO pretty high on the list just because of how good they've been since even Rise of Valor. They don't look like they've dropped off at all. The performances in LPL have been solid. And then you'll look over across Order and Legacy, which are kind of like, you know, that is the remains of the old launch roster where I would say old launch was pretty good, but I don't know. I kind of need to see Order. I think on paper, Order look fantastic. This is a really strong team. Order and Disco are going to be really good players. But I don't think Ferg and Wizard were lacking at all either. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think if I was going to compare kind of, you know, the fallout of launch into Order and Legacy, this is what they became, right? Technically. Order do look stronger than Legacy on paper. I do think Order are probably the next favorites after EXO. I wouldn't put Order above EXO just yet because, again, this is the team I'm going to need to see in action first. You already lost to EXO on the old roster. On the new roster, you kind of have to prove yourself. I'm kind of same for Legacy, except Legacy probably look less good on paper versus Order, but still very strong. So that's kind of my 1, 2, 3.
I mean, you got guys on the Legacy roster like Deoxide and Gaza. Like Gaza, I don't think has played in a tournament. You've got Deoxide, who hasn't really played since the Bumble Boys roster back in the community.
He hasn't played beta pretty much. Yeah.
So like, they're obviously like storied names when you're looking at Australian CS history, but you know, it's yet to be seen what potential they have in Valorant. But I feel like if there is any guy or IGL that you want to be under when you're trying to pick up Valorant, I'd probably choose Ferg over anyone else in the OCE scene because I think he's proven to be one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah, no, that's actually really funny. Like, I think back to like AEM lands and stuff that Panic and Deoxide actually played on Legacy for CS all a little while ago. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But my thought is still, it's like, so yeah, exactly the same to Kev. Like Order obviously needs to show up here. I think they've got an upset potential just because of, you know, again, sure, you haven't exactly weakened the roster, but now obviously, you know, you've had Textra for a little while on a duelist, which is really, really cool as opposed to the Sage. And then, you know, they've had a little bit of time to work with. And I think that the one thing for EXO, like, I still think that's not the final roster. You know, I think they're going to continue to do really, really well, but I think they'll probably eventually make some changes. It's just like, I guess it's in the classic, right? They haven't needed to because they're still the best. And until people start to contest them, they're not going to change anything. Because again, it's always like the age-old classic. Could you change some players? Yeah, sure. But it could make them really good or it could cook them completely. So I'm excited to see how they fare up again. Like, I don't want it to be ever another story about how they just win everything, because I still think, you know, we need some balance, and I want teams to have that desire. Like, don't lock into this team's the best, we're just looking to be second place. Like, I want everyone to be still contesting for that top spot, especially since the game's so new. There's still so many things that can change, and hopefully Riot won't make it a permanent 10, 15 flash meta, so we'll see.
I'm looking forward to, by the way, the Autumn versus Dizzy duel over there. The two jet players coming in. That is going to be a really sexy one, because that's they're probably the two best jet players in Oceania right now. So that's going to be
two of arguably like the best as well. Like, sure, you got some top players, but like those guys just fundamentally
just best players in general. Yeah,
pretty much.
Here's the other really fun thing is Autumn used to be on EXO before they were EXO. So EXO were God Squad before they got picked up.
Yeah, that's
Autumn was on that team. He was there before Crunchy. So before Crunchy joined, it was Autumn in that spot. Obviously different roles and stuff. You know, all these teams have kind of swapped off their roles of the individual players. But so Autumn used to be on that team technically. So it's kind of like playing against their old teammate there. And you got the Order Legacy kind of mixture where Ferg used to be on that roster. So there's a bit of back and forth there. You have between EXO and Legacy, where Crunchy, Ferg, and Deoxide played on the same team in beta and an early release as well. So there's a lot of, you know, history between, I'd say, different members on these three teams specifically. And also to speak to, you know, EXO maybe not looking at the final version of the roster. I do think part of me does consider that, you know, over time, I'm sure things are going to change. But for now, consider that EXO, they got stomped by Launch in OVO and didn't make any changes apart from within the team's roles themselves. They kept the players the same, and they're not coming back really strong. So I think EXO, for one hand, I think they found a pretty good winning formula here. As long as it keeps winning, I'm sure they'll be fine for now. I also do like to see teams kind of stick around and keep things going if it's working, and just to build on that, because if it's too much shuffling, you're not going to reach your potential in a team, I think. So if for a team like EXO, they're the closest to reaching any sort of real potential, because they're sticking together quite strongly. They've been together for a long time now, and they are still, you know, technically number one and possibly favorites to win here. So they have all of that to live up to.
Yeah, I still think they're definitely core 3 or core 4. Like, they're not a team that's going to completely break down and reshuffle or anything like that. It's just, I'm thinking mainly core 4. I'm just wondering who's like the weak link.
Who's
the game? Well, it's not.
Do you know something, by the way? I feel like if you're some insider.
No. This is just
speculation.
Just my cynical view, because like the coolest thing about Valorant is it can be quite difficult to be who's the best, because you look at that roster, right? Like Clix is probably the best player in the region, at least in my eyes, because he is quite diverse and he's really, really good and seems to have like quite a leveled mentality, I feel. But then he could very well maybe even be the worst, because he might not be able to pick up different roles and that kind of stuff. So I love that about this game. It's like, you know, you could the players who are still at the best at the moment, they might not be like a support player or a duelist or whatever. They might still need to change up to then feel their best. And I don't know. That's what I love about this game. That's the cool.
I think
that's
because
when
Plix has had. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Plix has had the role shake up. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, he's been around a few roles in that EXO roster, and that EXO roster has like refined itself after the OVO loss.
Exactly, that's right.
Into
that's what
like
I mean.
a super oiled roster, and we've seen that on a lot of teams. Like, we've seen that in Pants Down. I think basically every team, at least in the top 16 that you look, has gone through at least one change since the beginning tournaments in terms of how they structure their team, and that's all just part of the parcel of teams learning the best way to play.
Yeah, finally getting to that comfort point where it's like, okay, I know what I'm sort of good at. I know who else is like pretty good, and that's why this competition is like a mean point. Is like, holy shit, this is going to be really good teams in comfortable positions going hard. So yeah, it's cool.
Well, you have two
like EXO is they didn't have an IGL. Like, they had Iron who put his hand up and said, all right, well, I'll be the IGL because no one else is going to do the work. And it's just a bit crazy that it's at that sort of level, because when you're going into a team, usually you have an IGL, which would try to structure it and be like the worst player on the, not the worst player, but the least performing player. And from that point, you would then, try to round out the roster around how the calling works and the play style of the team. This is all early days. So he's just going, screw it. Well, I'm just going to watch, EU VODs. Like, demos still don't exist. So it's really hard to watch like footage of opponents unless everyone's recording their demos, their screen perspectives. And then somehow you get a hand on it, because that just doesn't happen yet. So hopefully that's going to be sorted out soon. And when that happens, that is when we're going to see some crazy stuff start to happen in the Valorant scene. But until that point, it's going to be so much harder, because all you have to go off is like one POV for a professional game to see how they're doing stuff, and hope that the map gives enough information for you to try to model everything.
I want to make a joke about Ian actually being the worst player on the team, but some people might take that the wrong way. But it's an internal EXO joke about it all the time. I love Ian, but like we had like Dizion, and they just like talking about how they internally joke about Ian being the worst player on the team anyway. But
what was they lost one map to Avant, I think, in the grand final in a final for something recent, and the only map that they lost, Ian almost had 30 kills in that map when he was
Moto.
It might have been. He was operating on B on Ascent, and he was just destroying everyone. It was like, fuck, my team sucks today. I'm just going to step up and do something. They still lost somehow. But it was close. So.
Yeah. I guess the number one thing that we can talk about this is we've talked about the new rosters as a whole. Who do we think has won the roster shuffle? Because I feel like the roster shuffle is kind of coming to an end now. With the MEX Invitational, First Strike, looking into 2021, all the rosters have kind of settled down when you're looking at Legacy, Direwolves, Mindfreak, Gravitas. Any team that's not EXO basically has had some sort of change. Do we think there are some winners and losers? Obviously, there is going to be some, but like, who are the big ones for you, Kev?
Yeah, so off the bat, I think Order win the actual shuffle in terms of being able to pick up new players. So it looks like to me they basically had first dibs. It's like you look at this Ground Zero roster and you just walk up to the buffet table and take what you like. Order just like, yeah, we'll grab an Autumn and a Disco, and then leave the pickings for everyone else is kind of what it looks like in a way. Not to speak poorly of anyone else there, but if you're Order and you have, it's very easy for Order to do this as well, by the way, because they still have the launch core and they get to come through with a lot of rep in terms of being either the best team during the OVO period or being the second best team from ROV. It's very easy for people from Ground Zero or for anyone else to look at that and be like, hell yeah, I'm going to join that team, and have that as a priority as well. So, Order kind of just swoop in, pick up who they want, and then the rest of Ground Zero kind of get scattered.
Quickly, is Wizard a free agent now?
He's retired.
I think he's retired.
He just gave up, sort of came
health
in
reasons, I think is what he said.
Right. Okay. So similar to CS. That's all right.
Yeah.
Well,
he was bloody impressive one moment. I very much enjoyed watching his own play.
Well, he was the one that was getting all the 1v4s and 1v5s, wasn't he?
He won back 1v3s.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was the game you guys casted, wasn't it? I remember.
It certainly was.
Man was insane.
Yeah.
That was So he'll be solemnly missed from the Valorant scene, but he did make a very big impact at the start of it. What about you, Conk? What rosters do you think are looking good, and what rosters are looking not so good in your favorite language?
Look, I again, that's probably the exciting part for me is the fact that I don't particularly know. I actually kind of was happy to take a bit of a step back from it all because, obviously the main thing about Valorant is you got to understand, how all the abilities mesh and why teams would pick what champ for what reason and that kind of thing. And I think, obviously in the very early stages, you're sort of locked to this meta, but then as you watch a whole bunch of like different regions and all that kind of stuff, the meta sort of shifts. So like, obviously Sage got thrown in the bin and then people decided to stop playing around like a healing meta, made like a much more aggressive sort of push and that kind of stuff. So I like the little break that you take back because you come in and it almost feels like a little bit different. People have learned a lot and know how they need to approach it. So I think like Order on paper again has like this incredible potential to be at the top because they're all really driven players from really high backgrounds and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think Avant, they've been working really hard as well. I know that. EXO, not only have they been, the cool thing about them is not only have they just been scrimming and stuff, they've actually been playing the game. They don't just play it as a side hustle sort of thing. It's their thing. They all stream, they all smash it. And then, aside from that, I think Gravitas is an interesting one. Obviously, they won't be playing this weekend. Same with Direwolves like Akatsuki. They're really, really cool to see, like a jump up for players like that. And especially because, obviously, like thinking about that roster, it's like Lou and Kyoto and stuff, right? Like I didn't even know that they were taking the game super seriously, and here they are. So besides from that, I suppose Mind Freak I'm excited to see because I only got to see them when obviously they had that Skits Machine. So and Kanga is an incredible team as well. I know that I've seen that as somewhat, despite us almost beating them in the whatever the qualifier was. But anyway,
I remember that game.
That was pretty funny.
Well, I'm still gonna say that I was the man to single-handedly disband the old Direwolves roster after I outfrag signed in a qualifier for some event.
Yeah, that's what I loved about like the game at the start. It's like, how have we almost beat like a team that's ended up qualifying for the whole thing? But that's the game, right?
We didn't even get close to beating. We lost 13-1 to Direwolves. So like we won a round. We won around.
Well, I remember after that game, and then like because we had the deep run, and then almost because like they ended up qualifying for the whole for the thing on that day. But then the next week we played and literally shit the bed to like a top 32 MEX, like and just got dominated. Like it was unreal. So game is so versatile and keeps catching people off guard, and that's why like sure now it's started to settle, and I think it will only keep settling as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up this segment, because I want to quickly touch base on one other thing, is I think personally myself the big winners of this shuffle was actually Direwolves, because no offense, Kev, but I feel like the Akatsuki roster is like the best up and coming roster in Oceanic Valorant.
They just
maybe because
players.
It's not under
they just
your
got too old.
Yeah, maybe because it's just not under your tutelage. Maybe
Signed and Swill just slapped them like 3 days ago. What are you talking about?
But I really think this roster is really exciting. We'll put that result against my Africa aside. We'll focus on the future for them. But I'm really excited to see what this roster can do. There is one last thing that I want to chat about in this podcast before Joshua Swift kicks us off, and that is patch 111. Because patch 111 has completely changed the meta, I guess, or at least how people approach the game in some sense. So when you're looking at patch 111, you're looking at Breach getting buffed, and also Breach's fault line and Rolling Thunder changing so that it casts 8 meters away from him. And then you're also
you don't have to build it up?
No, so
you have to build it up, but there's like a buffer.
Yeah, is it so teammates in front of you don't get hit?
Yes.
Yeah, because the amount of times, same with Omen's flash, man. The amount of times you go, I'll flash in, and your teammates just stand in front of you, like, no, just wait a sec, move, just stand behind me, stand behind me, and then they do, and then you can flash. It's just
quality of life.
Sometimes,
Yeah, it's interesting though, because like there will be some corners behind thin walls where like people can dodge away from the breach abilities. Anyways, Cypher and Killjoy both got pretty hard nerfs, I guess, with the fact that they can't pick up pennies and alarm bots after rounds and keep them into the next round, and also just Cypher got an all-round general nerf. He got pretty much kicked into the gutter. with his trap wires now becoming visible and disabled after he dies.
They're fully visible now.
Yeah, when he dies, they're fully visible and they get disabled.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that's what we talk about, right? Like in this whole meta change. It's like, Sage is really good. She's 100% pick ban. Crush her into the ground. Cypher's pretty good. That's happening now. Like, crush him into the ground. Like,
well, the thing is that Cypher's not even the top pick rate agent right now.
Oh,
like,
right.
No, that's
Omen. What is, by the way?
Omen is.
Omen.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like, I think Cypher's second.
I think it just changes.
In some regions, he's third. In some regions, he's third, but he's second in most.
Hang on a second. You mentioned you can't pick up stuff after round. You can, can't you? You can pick up stuff after.
It doesn't save into the next round. That's actually a secret change they didn't put in the patch notes.
Are you serious? So if you pick up equipment post round, it doesn't get added to the next round.
I think that's fine because utility is still way too cheap in Valorant. It needs to be more expensive. There are so many unbalanced in terms of how much everything costs, abilities in this game. That all needs to be balanced. And I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. It might not. But it's something I've been saying since the game started. Like the fact that you can have your abilities and then almost like essentially a full buy. Oh God, can we talk about what a bonus round is? This blew my mind the other day because a bonus round in Valorant is a completely different ball game to a bonus round in Counter-Strike. And someone was like, bonus round. I was like, okay, cool. Well, I died last round, so I'm not bonus rounding. And the whole point of a bonus round is you don't make sure you buy it at like 2K no matter what you have, so you could go in with like a ghost no armor and you know that's fine because you're willing to lose the round as long as you can buy into the next. And it makes sense after I understood it, but I just got yelled at by this one guy because I didn't buy down to 2K, and I'm just like, been gone for 2 months, mate. Just bloody come on, give me a minute, all right?
So wait, when
what do you think of? What do you think
when
about
someone says bonus round, that means buy to 2K. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you saved your weapon from the previous round, then you just use it, whatever. Just don't buy below 2K. And same as if you died in the previous round, you just buy down to 2K, even if it's a really terrible buy, to make sure that you can get the proper vandals, full armor, everything in the next round.
Yeah.
So a save round.
Counter-Strike. Well, this is the bonus round now, Conk. We're in a new game. All right, new game.
Get me out.
So, and in CS, the bonus round is essentially everyone that has whatever weapons are left from the previous round, like they are going to bonus round. Like, so if your whole team, like 5 of you all have, say a UMP or a SMG, so in case there's anyone here that doesn't know Counter-Strike, an SMG or even just like a pistol, you just go, all right, well, I guess we just use these, hope we get the rounds. And if not, well, then, we work up round loss bonus and we can fully buy into the next anyway. So completely different definition.
And no one
of what
buys.
Either are.
You mean the guy? So I'll give you an example.
In Valorant,
so
in Valorant, people buy in CS:GO.
So you're saying okay. So the difference is what you're saying is if you died on round 2, you bonus round 3. In CS, you don't buy if you died and you come back. And in Valorant, you buy down to 2K. That's the difference is what you're saying right now.
In Valorant, you want to have 2K left in the bank. In CS, it's like some of the teammates that died in the previous round, they'll probably buy like rifle armor and have like not much left at the end. But say if someone has an SMG, your option is, knowing that the enemy has like AKs now, is you go and you upgrade your SMG to a rifle so you have a better chance of winning those engagements.
On the
bonus. Well, that would be not a bonus round.
Yeah,
so that's what
the bonus is taking the SMGs to like farm money because the econ is different in the 2 games.
It's not even farming money. It's just about not spending money for certain people. It doesn't matter who it is. So if someone has survived, they'll go, "Oh, bonus round this. We'll just keep the SMGs," and that's it. That's the end of it. So that's why I was confused when they said bonus round, and I was like, okay, well, I'll buy. And I just bought my bloody, Spectre armor and had like $200 left in the bank. And this dude was like, "Oh, Omen, why have you bought, man? Why have you bought? We're bonusing." And I'm just like, yeah, you guys didn't die last round, so you have your same weapons.
Okay, I think I get it.
And I just bought like I would on a normal bonus round in CS because it's not for me, it's not a bonus round. It's a bonus round for the people that survived in the previous.
So you're saying
that's the difference.
So
whereas a bonus round in Valorant is it's a whole team thing. Right. So yeah,
everyone bonuses in Valorant, and in CS only the people that survived bonus. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm glad that we've gone to the bottom of this.
So we got
it.
What an adventure.
Wow.
But yeah, the major things in the patch 111 update is Breach buffed, Cypher and Killjoy nerfed, and I don't understand why Breach is buffed, but I'm not a ride and play.
Because the win rate is low in ranked.
Because you have a brain, apparently.
Because
balancing team, I swear, happens. It's like
I promise you,
it's his rank.
The stats will tell you that in pub play and rank play, Breach is a low win rate. I promise you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what will happen.
That's exactly it. Even though, like in pro play, he is like, I think the strongest agent.
It's because people can't, like, people still refuse to communicate in the bloody game. Like,
Yeah.
Diamond is apparently a higher rank, and there is still like 80% of the people that don't use microphones. And I'm just like, how are you here?
Well, how are you supposed to communicate the bonus prize then?
Yeah, exactly. How are you supposed to know it's bonus round, Max?
Because there's the one guy doing all the bloody great communication for the team, you know?
Oh, man. Well, that's what I mean. I had it like, oh, Jesus. It's just like, when are they going to, do they have any plan of doing that potentially? Like, Diamond should not be like, I don't know. It just feels like, if you've got any FPS foundation, Diamond feels like Nova, which is not a very high rank in.
I think they're rejigging the rank system in the next episode. So
they need to make it harder to rank up and de-rank, man, because I tell you, like, you can drop 30 but have a dog shit team and lose 13-3 or whatever it is, 13-4, 13-5, and you'll get 3 down arrows, and then you'll win like a very closely, hotly competitive game. Everyone's comming, everyone's doing and everything. You'll go to overtime like 15, you'll win 15, 14 or some shit, and you get 1 up arrow. It's just like, what the shit? Like, that was the hardest game I've ever fucking played. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's just really weird because, and also very easy apparently to have like a couple good players carry like a very shit player to Radiant in like no time at all.
Yeah. They're all rejigging that. They're like doing duo queue stuff, restrictions and that kind of thing. So that'll be
bless.
But I know even like Elo Hell exists in this game. Like
it's called Plat.
Tham? No, you guys
Elo
know
Hell
Tham?
is called Plat.
No. Tham's gold. Tham somehow got gold. or gold. I think he got placed in silver because he was playing with his real life mates who weren't very good at shooters. Yeah. So he got a really terrible rank, and he tried a little bit to. I think he got up to gold from silver, or like towards plat from gold. But he's like, man, it's just crazy how bad people are at these ranks. Like, no matter how hard you carry, you still just lose these rounds somehow. And I'm like,
so you have to 1v5. As soon as you die, your team just shits the bed.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess that's a similar thing in CS Mac. Like, you go into a Nova game, right? And do you feel like in a Nova game you'll just come across the best players of all time? Like, it's crazy. I don't understand it. It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I only recently started playing like pugs again. Just like random like norm pugs that people play, because I'm used to playing like FPLC where everyone has to have a mic, everyone is supposed to be communicating and trying to work together, and you just go into a norm and it's just like everyone just does whatever they want. Nothing makes sense. I've been going straight months of like top tier Counter-Strike trying to like understand all the best strategies that all the best teams are using. And then you go into a norm and this dude with a bloody MP7 just runs at you and kills your whole team because you're all standing there like, well, didn't see that one coming, did we? Jeez, you know? And it's the same in Valorant, same thing. Like everyone, like half the time, half the games when no one has mics, you got like 3 people just sort of standing next to each other who are there, like this little silent group who you find out, you know,
they're
90% they're in a Discord together and they just communicate with each other, but not with you. And then you do something, all you hear is them say something negative, like, oh, that was pretty stupid, wasn't it? And then like, you're just like, oh, you have a mic? What the hell? Like, where's this been? We could have been we could have been going to the same site together. Did you know that? Anyway, what were we on? Because I've gone on the tangent. I'm Mr. Tangent, if you don't know. Very good. Very good at it.
He's good. He's good at feeling now. But yeah, that's basically it. It's going to be a little bit of a different meta that we're going to see the teams pulling out at the MEX Invitational. So be sure to check out those changes when the tournament goes live on November 6th. I'm sure Josh will pull up a stream link for me because I can't remember it off the top of my head. I think it is the Chiefs, twitch.tv/Chiefs Esports, or Chiefs ESC, stands for Chiefs Esports Club. You go catch the action there. Australia's best Valorant teams, or Oceania's best Valorant teams, because I'm sure there's some Kiwis in the mix when you've got names like Signed as well. This is the schedule for the official stream on Friday. We've got Notic taking on Avant, the first game at 6:15 p.m. AEDT. Then we've got Exo Clan versus Legacy in what is sure to be one of the best matches you could catch in Group A at 7:30. And then we've also got Order versus Avant at 8:45 p.m. to round out the night's action on the official stream. That's not all. We've also got some community casters pulling in the hard yards to put on the other group games, so be sure to check those guys out. I know 2Tap Tony's on it, and a couple of the other community casters. All the details are on the Chiefs Esports Twitter. And here we go. Josh has got them on screen for now. This guy's the best producer in OCE. Honestly, what this man does, it's worth its weight in gold. So we've got Temporal and Peronius on one stream. Got Matsy and 2Tap Tony and Digital QF. You can see all the games there. You can catch up all the action. Just check out the Twitter for Chiefs Esports Club. And I think that pretty much just wraps us up for tonight, lads. We had a wonderful chat talking about Max CSGO adventures and Max Valorant adventures and ranks because he's having a great old time.
Woo!
Yeah,
always do. I'm not toxic. I'm only toxic if they don't work with me.
Mac, I've only got one request for the broadcast this weekend. Can you do us a fan cam for Valorant? Can you figure out a way to pull out one of your CSGO fan cams for Valorant?
I'll be casting.
I'm sure you can do it.
If I'm not casting, maybe I could get
Well, Josh, when me and Moto are casting, get Mac on doing some things, you know?
Like eating the banana one. Was it that you or like?
Yeah. Oh, those bananas that tasted horrible. Never eat bananas with skin on. They were also towards the end of their should probably be frozen and put in a smoothie. They were at that stage, so they were very squishy bananas.
Yeah, not great.
No.
But yes, that wraps us up for tonight on Run It Back. Be sure to follow these wonderful lads down here. You can find their Twitter handles. It's MacMate_, not just MacMate, as we made the mistake earlier today for Mac, and Conky OCE for old mate Conk right below me. You can also follow Kevin and I at I'm Ducky, DeVicky_, and I'm Avril on Twitter. And you can find us at the same time next week, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. AEST or AEDT. I have moved the podcast to Wednesdays now instead of Tuesdays. And same great podcast that you know and love and has won many, many podcast awards in Oceanic Valorant Media Awards history. And we hope to keep delivering the great content. So be sure to tune in next week when we'll have a new couple of guests on. Rack will be back. And until then, please go watch the Men Expert Invitational and have a great week.